Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Lion update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
With former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King, I'm Tom Hannafin. This is State of State. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to the NBA, college basketball to the NHL and UFC. BetOnline is the number one sports betting source, from touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks. BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. State of State is presented by BetOnline. The game starts here. State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Also, official State of State merchandise is available now. Support the show and grab State of State t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. Hi, everybody, and welcome to State of State. There is breaking news. According to multiple sources, Penn State football is finalizing a deal to make Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles the next and new defensive coordinator for Penn State football for an average of $3.1 million per year on a multi-year contract. This is an enormous piece of news, rumors for which had been circling for quite a while over the last few days and weeks. This has been a complicated search for Penn State football to find a new defensive coordinator ever since Tom Allen announced that he was going to Clemson to take on the same role, also for a seven-figure earning potential. This is amazing on so many levels. I've been one of the first people to say, yeah, going to get Jim Knowles, that'd be awesome, but it's not going to happen. I am astonished that this is actually happening. I am thrilled to be eating my words. I'm very, very happy about it. Don't get me wrong. This signals so many things for Penn State football, and I want to take our time with this because it's let's start with the performance of Ohio State's defense over the last few years under Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles, you could argue, in tandem with Ryan Day, has changed the perception of Ohio State football. Not that it hasn't been a powerhouse, but has changed the perception of the style of play. Ryan Day wanted to be more physical, wanted to be more aggressive. And yes, everybody can point towards the Michigan game this past year where it looked like Ohio State was trying to make a statement offensively, specifically trying to run the ball, be physical, be aggressive in that capacity when they had the athletes to do other things. Really, this entire mentality that Ohio State has developed of being more physical, being more aggressive, it started with Jim Knowles, and it started with the defensive side of the football. For Penn State to go from Brent Pry to Manny Diaz to Tom Allen and now to Jim Knowles is amazing. You have to tip your cap to James Franklin for getting this thing done, for upgrading at this position. And I mean, zero disrespect to Tom Allen whatsoever, but clearly Jim Knowles is doing the best job of any defensive coordinator in college football right now. I don't think that can be argued. Jim Knowles leading Ohio State to first in points allowed per game, first in yards allowed per game, second in sacks. A hell of a 2024-2025 campaign. That, yes, they had stars on the offensive side of the ball that you can point towards at just about every position. But defensively, Ohio State was stellar. And Jim Knowles led the way with that and came up with some brilliant game plans that ultimately helped Ohio State mow down the competition into the college football playoff and win a national championship. This is a major coup in college football for Penn State to grab the defensive coordinator from the reigning national champions from within their own conference. It's mind-blowing. Now, Jim Knowles has ties to Philadelphia. He's a Pennsylvania guy. So this is something that you can understand the base interest at that point, but also that it's a new challenge. It is a brand that I would say Ohio State's brand notoriety. I think, no disrespect to Penn State fans, but Ohio State has been national champion now 7 times and has been arguably the franchise in college football for a very long time. Penn State being just a tier down. And no disrespect to this, my alma mater, but that's the truth. You look past those things. If you're Jim Knowles, you're looking at the opportunity, one, to come home, quote unquote. You're looking at a new challenge. You're looking to do something within the Big Ten, which is pretty amazing. Again, to jump from one Big Ten to the next. I think the challenge here for Jim Knowles is Penn State is primed to credibly compete for the national championship in 2025. What a hell of an accomplishment that would be for Jim Knowles individually if he could win back-to-back national championships at 2 different schools within the same conference. Incredible. Does this put Penn State over the hump? Does this get Penn State over the hump in 2025? That remains to be seen, in my opinion. You more than solidify your coaching staff with this. And I think everybody needs to give James Franklin his flowers for the way that he has staffed this coaching group. It's been so impressive, and especially for him to continue to get so many talented defensive coordinators all right in a row. He has a remarkable group of position coaches to retain Andy Kotelnicki for 2025. You're setting yourself up for success. There's a lot of things that still have to be improved when it comes to personnel. Improved, will that be realized in 2025? We'll see. But at least you seem to be doing the work, and you have the people in place to develop this talent that you have for 2025 so that the national championship is within striking distance. So I don't necessarily think that Jim Knowles automatically makes Penn State surefire national championship winner, right? I think there's still some things within the roster that need to be looked at. Penn State fans know very well the issues at the wide receiver position, some holes defensively that are going to pop up now that the likes of Abdul Carter, who could be the number 1 overall pick, as some sources have stated, in this upcoming NFL draft. There's going to be some question marks on the defensive side of the ball that Jim Knowles is going to have to address from a personnel standpoint. So it's the thing Justin and I talk about on this show constantly is Jimmys and Joes versus X's and O's. Well, the X's and O's are freaking covered, period. This is incredible. The money, an average of $3.1 million per year. Tom Allen going to Clemson is getting a $300,000 bump. Was supposed to be getting 1.6 from Penn State in 2025. He's getting 1.9 in year 1 from Clemson. So the value of coordinators has gone up over the years. And ironically, it was at Clemson, Brent Venables was the one who got a coordinator salary that cleared 7 figures. Venables was actually trying to get Jim Knowles to come to Oklahoma. And some of this information was initially put out there about Jim Knowles coming pretty close to finalizing this situation with Penn State from Toby Rowland, who's the voice of the Oklahoma Sooners. And it's all barring a change of heart, but it sounds like this is moving in the right direction. There has been so much conversation ever since the advent of NIL and the transfer portal about Penn State being behind. And we've talked about that here on this show, is Penn State being able to raise money to be able to recruit at the highest level and get guys out of the transfer portal that make a difference. Well, this makes a difference. And it also is a signal that James Franklin and Penn State Athletic Director Pat Kraft are not messing around. It's no longer success with honor. Now, I'll say this. I frame that in this capacity. Penn State is still going to operate and have success and do it with honor. All of this is legal. There is nothing illegal about what Penn State is doing. And there is a new roughly $20 million quote unquote salary cap that is going to come into place at some time in the near future. So we've been saying it for a while. Penn State's living in the Wild West. So you have to be able to adapt. This is Penn State adapting. And this is Penn State opening up the checkbook in a way that many people thought Penn State would not do. That Penn State was going to be one of these programs that was going to say, hey, here's a small NIL package for a player to come and play at Penn State. And then if you get other opportunities once you're here, you're here. But you're here to be transformed, as James Franklin has said. This is not transactional. This is hopefully transformative for the young men that come and play for Penn State football. But there is a transaction side of this. Now, granted, this is for a coordinator, not a player, but to me, this is an indicator that Penn State is entering the conversation of the juggernauts of the sport and is being prepared to spend the way that they are spending. You're looking at Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. Michigan is also another team that has spent very recently. The Bryce Underwood story we covered here on State of State. In the past, under Jim Harbaugh, Michigan was not really spending, kind of still doing the same thing. You're a Michigan man, our pride, our tradition, our history, our legacy, all those sorts of things. Penn State was hanging its hat on similar things. But Penn State's approach of you're coming for the pride, the tradition, the legacy, the history, the community, all that stuff. That's a piece of your pitch, of your sales pitch. There has to be a dollar amount that goes with it now. That's just the very harsh reality of this. And what this all signals to me is that Penn State is putting that in the past and is moving into the future. You can still have success with honor, but success with honor is not going to be this phrase that is basically code for we're not going to pay players and we're not going to pay competitively for players of the highest caliber to come to Penn State football. We're going to make our pitch and you should want to come here because we're Penn State football. I think this is all changing, and this is the biggest signal that it's changing. $3.1 million on average per year for a coordinator. Penn State's not messing around. Hats off to Pat Kraft, the athletic director, because James Franklin has talked about it from day one, is that Pat Kraft has been aggressive. This is as aggressive as this. I can't even wrap my head around it. This is as aggressive of a move as you can possibly have and execute in this cycle of hiring coaches. Because again, to go get Jim Knowles, yeah, it was a no-brainer that you should want to talk to Jim Knowles. Shoot, you should go talk to Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, of course, all these no-brainers that would make a lot of sense. Of course, yeah, you should definitely go to talk to Jim Knowles. But the fact that Penn State was able to put something together that would convince Jim Knowles to come to Penn State is incredible. The long-term scope of this is what I'm curious about. Is this Penn State football pushing all of its chips into the center for one national championship in 2025? It's been since 1986 that Penn State won a national championship. So you can understand that desire, that need to get there. Now, Penn State landing in the Final Four this past year was proof that Penn State's moving in the right direction. People can knock the path of SMU and Boise State all they want. Penn State's a field goal away from beating Notre Dame and going to the national championship to play Ohio State, ironically. Penn State credibly was already in the conversation to compete for the national championship, to make the Final Four again, to even make the national championship game before you went and got Jim Knowles. Getting Jim Knowles really, really solidifies you in that spot. Does it guarantee Penn State is going to the national championship game? No, there are no guarantees, period. Does it guarantee Penn State's going to win the national championship game? No, no guarantees. It sets you up in a way that there's no better person to get as your defensive coordinator to solidify the spot. There are a lot of questions Penn State's going to have to answer in terms of its roster, the development, the growth of certain players, to be prepared to handle that task in 2025. But again, is this the football program pushing all its chips to the center for one season. Did you just spend $3.1 million for this upcoming year for a defensive coordinator so you could win that national championship? And then after that, is it falling off a cliff and that Penn State doesn't necessarily have the ability financially to compete with that? I believe this is a paradigm shift for Penn State football, that you're finally going to be able to spend with the big boys. Have the donors stepped up? Has the NIL program necessarily gotten to the point where Penn State is going to be able to pay premium for the best players in the country? Time will tell. I sincerely hope this is an indication of long-term spending planning by Penn State football, that they're willing to go out there and spend and do the things that will keep them competitive in this sport, because you either spend or you fall behind. And this is an indication of a direction that I did not think Penn State was going to go down. It seemed too expensive, ultimately. That my broadcast colleague Justin King has talked about it a lot. For a while, Penn State's been playing Moneyball, doing the most with the least. And this past year's run into the college football playoff, if anything, should have been an indication to the Penn State football fan base and the college football world of how much Penn State can do with not that much in terms of resources. So the things happening behind the scenes to give Penn State its resources to go and get Jim Knowles, it's a tremendous indication of what's to come in the future. Does this guarantee Penn State anything in 2025? No, that's life. But Jim Knowles as Penn State's new defensive coordinator certainly sets up Penn State for success, and it certainly makes their argument to be credible contenders for the national championship in 2025 that much stronger. My sincere hope as an alumni of Penn State, a lifelong fan, and someone who's covered the team now on this podcast, is that this is an indicator that Penn State is, yes, going to staff extremely well, is going to get the best coaches humanly possible, but also there needs to be follow-up in terms of this type of spending to get the elite game-changing talent that will make what you've done in terms of the coaching staff that much easier when it comes to the personnel. The X's and O's, you know you're in good shape with James Franklin, Andy Kotelnicki, and Jim Knowles heading this team. From a personnel standpoint, that's where the questions lie, and that's where we're going to have to keep an eye on things to see if the personnel spending follows suit. Penn State, according to sources, is finalizing bringing in Jim Knowles as its next defensive coordinator, taking him away from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Penn State fans love that. I believe this is going to be finalized very, very soon. This is a massive move for Penn State football and its future in 2025 and beyond.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by Bet Online and by Blue White Outfitters.